Oh, hey, Grandma, what's up?
Like you could just about die.
That's a weird thing to say. Have you been drinking and smoking again, Grandma? I'm gonna take that awkward silence as a yes. I'm gonna call Grandpa, alright?
I hope he doesn't tell his grandpa that I've been smoking the devil's lettuce and getting day drunk again.
Hey, wait, what are you doing? Don't do that! It's me, Ryan.T here, and tonight we're going to be reviewing It Chapter 2. Wait, no, not that movie. That's not It Chapter 2. This is It Chapter 2. Alright, sorry about that confusion. Let's get it started. Like all my new movie reviews, I'm going to keep it short, sweet, simple, and to the motherfucking point. Alright, let's get it started, ghouls and gals. It Chapter 2 stars Jessica Chastain, James McAvoy, Bill Skarsgård, who plays Pennywise the Clown, Bill Hader, who plays Richie Tozier, Isaiah Mustafa, who plays Mike Hanlon, James Ranson, who plays Eddie Kasparak, I can't say the last name that well, Jay Ryan, who plays Ben, Andy Bean, who plays Stanley, and also stars the past cast that played all of the Losers Club when they were young. It Chapter 2 follows the story of the Losers Club 27 years later. They're now adults and they return back to Derry, Maine to take on the entity known as It/Pennywise, and that's pretty much what It Chapter 2 is about. However, I guess you can't say a simple enough premise, but It Chapter 2 decides to go a very crazy, aimless, tonally confusing route with this premise, and I'll get into that a little bit later, but I kind of wanted to talk about the performances in this film for a second. Every character in this film, with the exception of Bill Hader, who plays Richie, is very like one note. Like it's kind of like, I understand in the first film they all had like their specific like quirk or character trait, but they weren't just that in the first film. They kind of were like fully explored characters, and yeah, I mean they had the fat one, but he wasn't just like, yeah, I'm fat, you know, and they had the funny one, but he wasn't always just funny. They had dimensions to them. In this film, however, the adult counterparts to the Losers Club are very one note. Again, with the exception of Bill Hader, it kind of feels like to the point to where they're almost like unmemorable. Like if you were to like remind me about the adult Losers Club like a few days from now, I'd be like, okay, yeah, I guess I remember them. And that's kind of a little bit disappointing for me, because the first go around in this film, It Chapter 1 as I like to call it, the cast in that film was very memorable, and all those actresses, all those young actor and actresses in that film were very memorable in their roles. However, these actors and actresses in these roles are not so memorable. But again, Bill Hader is. Bill Hader probably has a sore back from carrying this whole fucking film.
That's not funny!
Because he is great in this film. Everybody else in this film, except James McAvoy too. I mean, he's never bad at anything. Going back to what I was saying about the film being kind of like tonally confusing, what I mean by that is that this film, it brings some ambitious ideas to the table and some pretty cool imagery that sometimes doesn't look that great, but it's still cool to see nonetheless. And some of it's even really creepy as hell imagery, and some of the imagery is kind of funny. By funny, what I mean by funny is this film, it tells so many fucking jokes. Like it's scary thing, joke, scary thing, joke, scary thing, joke. it gets to the point to where all the funny things, all the jokes are overshadowing the things that you came to see in this horror film. At times, the film doesn't even feel like a horror film. It feels kind of like a black comedy with like horror elements, and then at times it feels like kind of like a sci-fi adventure with comedy elements and horror elements. And I have to say, the first film, It Chapter 1, felt like a horror film that had some kind of funny moments, not the other way around where it felt like a comedic film that had some horror moments. And I kind of feel like that's a little bit of a letdown for me, because I was a really big fan of It Chapter 1, and this It Chapter 2 kind of takes itself not as serious as the first one. It kind of jokingly jokes around with the premise, and I understand the film's about a fucking clown that can turn into anything that isn't really a clown. He's like this crazy entity that's like all powerful and shit. I understand that. I understand it's a goofy premise, but the first film handled it a lot better than this film did. And I hate to compare this film to that film, but again, it is a sequel of that film. Another thing, again, going back to all the ambitious ideas that this film has so many ambitious ideas that it sort of feels like towards the end of the film, like the middle towards the end of the film, that it doesn't know what to do with all these ideas. It puts some stuff on the back burner only to bring it back up later on, and it introduces new things. And, oh, what about if this happened, and the Native Americans, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da, which is all well and good if you can juggle all those things. See what I did there? But this film doesn't do a good job of juggling all those things. It kind of just like, oh yeah, remember when we were talking about that? Oh yeah, you remember the Native Americans? And yeah, and then and then finally at the end, you're just kind of like, oh, so everything you brought up in the film is gonna get brought up in this small, like, 10-minute final showdown thing, and it kind of gets overwhelming, and it's kind of like, alright, I understand that you're trying to cover all the bases, but Jesus Christ, maybe take some of those bases out. You maybe didn't need all of those bases. Again, the film, it feels like tonally confusing. It feels like it doesn't know where it wants to go. It feels a little bit aimless at times. And I hate to say it, but it's at some points of the film, it comes off as like unintentionally silly. There was people laughing at certain parts of the film that were meant to be horror or scary, and they were like kind of laughing at them because they were silly, and I couldn't blame them. I also found them kind of silly, and that again is another thing that I didn't feel with the first film. There was moments in the first film where I felt like Pennywise was super fucking creepy and stuff. In this film, he's more like jokey. Again, I get that he's a fucking clown, but he wasn't like that in the previous film. I mean, I will say that Bill Skarsgård in this film, he gives him another amazing performance. He is the one of the memorable things in both of these films. He does a very good job of portraying Pennywise, and I'll even go out on a limb here and say that he's on par, if not slightly better, than Tim Curry. And okay, I understand you're booing because I said that, but it's true. He's that talented of an actor. Tim Curry's a talented actor, but Skarsgård brings just this kind of like level of creepiness and stuff like that that is sadly not present in this film. He's more of like a comedic jokester in this film, which if you like that kind of thing, cool. Me personally, I didn't really like that. I kind of felt like, ah, man, that's a step down from the thing that I really liked from the first film. So in summary, I have to say It Chapter 2 is a film that is tonally confusing. It feels aimless at times, unintentionally funny. It has some performances that are really good, but other performances are very unmemorable, and I have to just say all those things make me feel like it was a little bit of a letdown, because I built this film so much up for myself, which I probably shouldn't have done. No one should probably do that for any film. Don't hype yourself up too much, because you will be disappointed. And I hate to say that because I really loved the first film, and I didn't hate this film. I didn't hate It Chapter 2, but I didn't love it either. And so for that, my final verdict is going to be 6.5 out of 10. And I'm going to suggest that you do go out and see this just for how long we've been waiting for this to come out. If you're a horror fan like me, you've been waiting a while for this to come out. And just for that alone, I think it's your viewership, I guess would be the word, is, you know, you should go out and watch it. I'm Ryan T, and I'll see you in the next one.